This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 671 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Trust Design. On this week's show, we've got the pleasure of interviewing Paralympian Kate Shoemaker. After that, friend of the show, Ellie Brimmer, tells us all about her experience looking for a horse. And then Anna Buffini gives us a great trainer tip.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Just having some internet connection issues tonight, which is a little frustrating. I'm just kind of wondering in my head if it has something to do with that storm that came through or something like that. I mean, usually my internet is pretty good.
Yeah, you usually have really good internet, and I hope everyone is safe. So we're actually recording this show almost a week and a half earlier than we normally would, because you and I have some really busy weeks. Last week was my big horse show, a local horse show, and it was recognized. And you have this week your big horse show. So we're recording everything in one night. So when the internet is not helpful, it is a little frustrating.
It's challenging, yeah. The technical issues are challenging, and Lord knows we've had our fair share of those over the years. But somehow you learn to power through and carry on.
That is one thing I would say. Everyone asks, like, what have you learned over your time podcasting? And I think one of the things we've learned is just you kind of just have to let that roll off. And because we don't want you guys to know what our technical difficulties are, but sometimes it's really frustrating and you kind of have to just laugh and rock on with it.
Yeah, I guess, that's life in general, and for sure horse riding. And I think, this week we're having kind of a difficult test, but we're going to make it the best of it, and we're going to carry on, and we're going to finish the test, and we're not going to quit halfway through, stuff like that,
Well, we can't. Yeah, we can't. So exactly. I think just this things to think about as you're getting ready for your show, for sure. You got a lot of youngsters going to the show, don't you?
Well, they're not really young, but they're entered into the young horse pre-St. George class. So I got 3 horses that are 9, and they're all kind of at the same level now, which is good. Mm-hmm. But good luck to the show organizers. That'll be challenging for them, and I appreciate all that they have to do to kind of get me ride times that are far enough apart.
Yeah. And you only have to learn one test, so that's actually helpful.
Yeah, there you go. That's
you can visualize, just change the visualization per horse. But no, we wish you all the best and your students great luck. You guys really have, in the last couple of years, haven't really been able to get in the ring as much as you normally do, and you already have a shortened season. So we wish you luck.
There's been challenges, but we've got about 6 shows that we plan to hit and that we have lined up as possible entries, and that's a pretty good season, for us. So we're excited, and we're just looking forward to getting it underway, basically.
I love it. Well, we really have a great show for everybody. So we're going to get the party started. I think you guys are all going to really enjoy Kate Shoemaker. She was wonderful. And we hope you really enjoy her interview. But we're going to have a quick commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products and get right into it.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
Commercial feeds are fortified with nutrients such as proteins, vitamins, and minerals. They are made up of a variety of ingredients that provide a particular amount of energy. Most feeds have been designed to address the needs of a certain type of horse. It is important to understand that all feeds are formulated by nutritionists to be fed in specific amounts. When the correct amount of feed is provided, the horse consumes the appropriate amount of energy and nutrients. The feeding directions included on the feed bag or the feed tag are specific to the particular feed and should be followed. When you feed less than the recommended amount of feed, your horse is not getting the full complement of nutrients that he or she may need. On the other hand, too much of a good thing can also be bad. The overfeeding of concentrates can lead to grain overload and oversupplementation, and feed should never be cut or mixed with other fortified feeds or plain grains, because this changes the nutrient profile and can cause imbalances in energy, protein, vitamins, and minerals. If you need to include additional supplements in your horse's diet, choose products that are formulated to complement, not compete with fortified feeds. If you feed a plain grain such as oats, additional fortification may be necessary. Kentucky Performance Products supplements are specifically designed to complement, not compete with, the modern concentrates used by today's horse owners. Each supplement is manufactured to exacting standards in certified facilities using stringent quality control guidelines. So choose Kentucky Performance Products supplements, because the horse that matters to you matters to them. Learn more about Kentucky Performance Products supplements at kppusa.com. That's kppusa.com.
This Nutritional Minute has been brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. You can find all of their terrific products at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight is really an honor, and I'm so excited to have Kate Shoemaker. She's an equine veterinarian, para-dressage world and Paralympic medalist. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor to be on.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I always get a little nervous when one of our guests has a Wikipedia page. So I am thrilled to have you on.
I didn't know I had a Wikipedia page. Yeah. I'm going to have to check that out.
I know. So for us, it's always really fun. So we love it. And we're thrilled to have you on. So Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. Where to begin? I mean, I just feel like I'm just living life day to day, and I do my thing. And, but yeah, I guess if I actually have to sum it up, I start my days as a horse trainer and a competitor, and then I switch to my veterinarian hat. And then oftentimes I'll switch back to a coaching hat before maybe becoming a veterinarian again, and then coming home and falling into bed with my dog and starting all over again the next day. So I always say I have two full-time jobs. I'm a rider and I'm a veterinarian. And honestly, I couldn't have it any other way, because I love the horses. I mean, it is truly what I have always wanted since I was a little girl, just to be surrounded by horses endlessly, maybe to a fault, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
So tell us a little bit about how you maybe started riding dressage specifically. What is your story of the journey to the World Championships or the Paralympics?
Yeah, so I kind of feel like I was like every other little girl, just saying, "Can I have a pony? Can I please have a pony? Pretty please! Like, what do I need to do for a pony?" And so like I have to admit, I don't even think I got Breyer ponies. Like they knew that was maybe a gateway to something bad. So maybe an occasional stuffed animal horse. And, when I was like 13, 14, my parents were like, "Oh goodness, maybe this is not a phase. Maybe she really wants to do horses. So, let's give this a try." And my dear parents, this ended up being a blessing in the end, but they didn't know that you could just put your child in riding lessons and they could just go to the barn once a week. So they got me a horse for Christmas.
And
that's how it all started.
She didn't look into it enough, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so fortunately for me, I ended up at a barn called Once Upon a Horse in Eagle, Idaho, where the horse that we were buying was at. And she looked at me and she looked at my parents and she said, "Okay, so she has to be in a lesson every time she's on the horse. She doesn't know what she's doing. Like, this is how this is going to work." And that ended up being the best thing possible, because I was started in dressage lessons from day one. And, my parents, not knowing any different, said, "Yep, okay, we understand. This is what we got to do." And then, of course, I was surrounded by people who were showing and had goals, going to young riders, going to regional championships and everything. And personally, I wanted to jump because jumping is fun, and that's what I had read in all of the horse books as I was growing up. So they let me jump, and I did my eventing even though I was at a dressage barn. But I always come back to that core, that my foundation was in the dressage training, and I am so incredibly thankful for that. You know, you don't know what you don't know in the beginning. So to be able to look back and say that I had really good people looking out for me is incredibly special. So, you know, that was the start of my journey. And, you know, my family have always been so incredibly supportive. I think they could see what a drive that I had for it, and always made sacrifices so that, you know, I would have a horse available. And that was, you know, I can look back on it and say, wow, they really, really did that for me. And it was amazing. And I'm so fortunate.
Well, Kate, one of the things I love what you just said was that you had such an incredibly good start. And I think that's so important for all parents. Wouldn't you say? I mean, you're an Olympian now, and to be able to look back and say how you had a quality start and really good people. And I think as anyone starting their journey, that start's important, wouldn't you say?
I think that is the single most important thing. If I look back on anything that we did right or wrong, that is the one thing that if that wasn't there, I wouldn't be where I am today, period, end of story. And in fact, it means so much to me that there is an award given to your coach, and after you earn a Paralympic medal. And so I actually requested that coaching award be given to my first trainer, who is my trainer, you know, for that first decade. And so I'm going to cry, but it was like, it really meant so much to me, everything that they did for me and taught me. And even when I was begging to move up and, you know, wanted to do this and do that they always said, you have to do it right first. You know, you have to do this. You're going to learn this. And, you know, looking back on that, they were so right. And because of that, I can do what I do today. And so that's why, for me to be able to, I actually had to name one person. So Ernst Herman is the person I named for the award, but really it's Ernst and Janet Herman, previously from Eagle, Idaho, who, you know, if it weren't for them, I would not have gone to Tokyo. And so because of that, I felt like they earned and deserved the coaching medal that I named them for.
Wow. I actually didn't know that. And that gave me chills, because I think that's so incredibly important for people to know. And as you're starting your journey with horses, if you start incorrectly or don't have the right person, it's hard to get to where you are. And it's even harder because your body has to learn all new things. So that's
Absolutely.
amazing. So how did vet school come in? I think this is so cool. I mean, I think school is so important, and so many riders and kids forget that. And how did that come in? I mean, that's huge.
So let me just be clear that what I really wanted to be in life was an astronaut, okay? But I was never going to pass the physical requirements to go into space. So maybe I'll have good luck in the future as this whole commercial space thing starts. But yeah, I realized astronaut was off the table. And I actually thought at a couple of points in time that veterinarian was off the table as well. And it was actually one of my mentors, I believe I was on the verge of tears in his office being like, you know, what if I can't do it? What if I can't do whatever it is? I couldn't even think of what it would be, but I'm like, I had this incredible fear that like people would find out that I have these physical weaknesses and they wouldn't want me to be their vet, or I wouldn't make it through school. I had a terrible fear that they would like not let me through school because they would find out I couldn't do certain things. And of course that fear turned out to be based in nothing. Yes. Okay. I maybe had a couple of struggles that other people didn't have, but my mentor on that day made a great point that if you can't do something, you just find another way. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. You know, this is just life, and you don't let things like this hold you back. If you want to do something, just find a way to do it. And for me, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I had the full support of people around me, and I just never looked back. And it's so interesting that equine in specific, they always tell you in vet school often that like, oh, you'll switch to small animal. They told me that constantly. Maybe they don't tell everyone that, but, and I said, honestly, I'm getting into this to be a horse vet. And if there's a point where I can't be an equine vet, I will just do something else. So, just truly my passion is wrapped around the horses and my love of the science and the athlete and the connection that the horse has with the rider. It's unexplainable how we can bring all these things together, and I get to be that little extra piece of the puzzle in somebody's journey, and it just brings me so much joy.
So, Kate, maybe you can tell all of our listeners about your physical limitations and how that affects you during riding.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was born, I was 8 weeks early, which meant my skull was much softer than it was supposed to be at birth. So essentially my brain got a little bit squished. And because of that, I have a condition called periventricular leukomalacia. A much simpler way of saying that is softening of the white matter in a specific area of the brain. So what that does, it has created a progressive weakness that occurs mostly on my right side. So much so that below my right knee, I have almost complete paralysis. I only have one muscle group that functions at all. So like in particular, when you're on the horse and you're going to give an aid with your leg, you might be able to move your ankle a little bit and put, your heel here or there. And for me, I have to make that movement from my knee in order to activate anything in my lower leg. And then in addition to that, it makes me struggle with symmetry on the horse. And I also only have about 50% of the normal range of motion in my pelvis, which we all know how, much more challenging that can make sitting the gait. So I've spent a lot of time actually finding ways to maybe not sit so classically, but sit in a way that allows me to follow the horse better, which interestingly has led to comments of people saying, well, actually, that is making you sit better and ride better, even though in a way it's a less classical seat. So, overall, it's a combination of the neurological condition creating weakness, muscle spasms that are out of my control, and, reduced range of motion within some of the joints. So, for riding the horse, the nice thing is that I can sit on the horse, I can look nice, but my movement while riding the horse and my strength can be significantly affected.
Yeah, well, I have seen you ride, and you are absolutely unbelievable. So you are so good. So tell us, getting ready. We're going to talk to Tokyo. I mean, obviously, with the pandemic, it was a delayed year, and so how did you sort of get ready? And tell us a little bit about Tokyo. That is its own interview, but tell us a little bit the high points of going.
Oh yeah, Tokyo was quite the experience. And in the beginning, when you hear about the delay, you go like, oh no, like what if this was our year? What if something happens to the horse? Or you never know. There's all these like unknowns. So then in the end, the delay of the year ended up helping us, because with Solly, I was just like quite on the cusp of finding this whole other gear in his trot, and getting him, he's a big horse. He's 18 hands. And he's not naturally built so uphill. So, it was really taking time to get him thinking more that way himself and being able to maintain it through a test and not just at home. So in that perspective, it turned out really well. The thing that most people don't know about is I got kicked by a horse and broke my ankle 1 week before we left for Tokyo. That was the hardest challenge of Tokyo, because initially when we were riding in training camp in Aachen, it was like, I can't touch the horse with my leg. Like it's painful. I can't touch it. I can't bend it. It's not moving. I was just happy I could get my leg in the boot. But by the time we actually rode down Centerline at Tokyo, it was 3 weeks. And on the day I rode down Centerline, it was feeling 90% better. So that was really fortunate. But so that presented an interesting challenge. And of course, like this was my first game, and being in the pandemic, it was totally different. So I didn't know what to expect, but so for me, I think going in as a clean slate, the pandemic related things didn't change my experience because I hadn't had one before. So, I was just so thankful to be there. We got to be in the village, which was, wow, incredible. I mean, just that in and of itself was an experience. And while maybe it would have been nice to be able to leave the village and go out on the town, the reality was we were there to compete. So, we were at the barns or we were at the village, and really we didn't need to be doing anything else. So I think that part worked out well.
So tell us about this horse that you competed in Tokyo. We can't we can't interview the horses, but maybe you can give us a
well,
little...
Solly thinks that's quite a disappointment because he is definitely the character of the two of us, and he would love to do an interview, and he would tell you everything. He would tell you all the secrets. So Solly, last year, 14, 15 now, I've been riding him since he was 7. So we've had quite a long partnership together. And I mean, what is there to say about Solly? I mean, he's grown up so much and just really become, I don't even know how to describe it, like the other half of my heart. Like he's just, I couldn't imagine having done that with any other horse other than Solly, because it was a goal that I felt like he and I had together, and we had set out to do this. And when he got off the plane in Tokyo and I got to see him in the stall there, like it just felt right, and it was actually interesting because when he arrived, they didn't get to see the riders at first, just the horses were there in their grooms. And they had said, oh, Solly, he's not quite right. He's kind of moping in the corner, but don't worry, we'll figure it out. And when we got to the barns and I cracked open the stall door and I said, Solly, and his head flew up, he spun around, and he come and he put his head right in my chest and just stayed there until someone was like, Kate, we have to go. And from that moment on, he was fine. I think he thought I put him on a plane and sold him to Japan. And he was devastated. And so just that moment of being reunited, I mean, I didn't want to let him go, and he didn't want me to leave. And it was just like this most special moment. And we felt that way like through the whole games of just like, wow, what an honor it is to be here with my buddy and my partner. And, here we are on this big stage. It's you can't even describe it really.
So Kate, tell us a little bit about the competition in Tokyo for you guys.
Yeah. So it started out with the individual competition, which is also the qualifier for the freestyle. So of course it's quite important because medals are on the line on day one. So for us, we had a really, really good draw in the class. We were going at the end. There were a lot of predictions made, like where will we be? And, there was a lot of like expectation that Solly and I would medal. We were averaging in the like 73, 74, even getting a 75 leading into the competition. I think our world ranking might have been number 2 at the time. And so, even the commentators, you watch the video, they're like, okay, here we go. We got to watch this one. And it was a nice ride, and it ended in 7th. And, I have to be honest, I was devastated because I felt like I let everybody down, I went there to get a medal for my country, and I didn't. So sorry, this makes me emotional because it was quite
I'm like, oh, you were amazing.
A moment. And so we kind of had to recover from that and say, okay, that happened. Thankfully, still qualified through to the freestyle with the top 8. So we were moving on, and that's good. And we had the team competition up next, and we had to look at it and say, okay, what can we do better? What do the judges want? Because this is important. We're going into the team competition. This is when it really counts, right? And so we ended up, it was split into 2 days. So Roxy and Becca had gone on the first day, and they had to wait for the second day for everyone to go, and myself. And so, interestingly, I didn't really feel the pressure. I wasn't nervous because I knew that nerves don't change anything. And saying I want it more, I'm already working as hard as I possibly can. So I really somehow was able to let the pressure in that moment stay off and ride the best test we could. And thankfully we were able to come out with the first Paralympic team medal for the U.S. So that was a massively joyous moment for us
It's
as a group
huge.
and as a country. And back on the bus, they like get you through its medal ceremony, yay, like all this, and then they're like, you got to get on the bus like right now because it's really late at night and there's not going to be any more buses. It was this whole like chaos, and so we're back there like hugging our horses and being like, we'll be back, we love you, and we got to go get on the bus, we haven't even changed yet, and then we're sitting on the bus together going like, can you believe this happened, like in happy tears, and knowing that it was just like, yeah, this bronze was like the barrier we had been trying to break through as a program and as a country, and they're like, we did it, we got the medal, and so now, here we are like leading into Herning, turning around 1 year later, and like I can tell you that this program is hungry and we want it so bad going into the World Championships this year because we've had a taste and we want more.
And we want more for you guys. It's so cool because, right? I mean, we're going into Denmark this summer, right? The World Championships. This is huge. Yep. And I know you guys are hungry and working so hard. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for me, I'm going into Herning in a little bit different situation in Tokyo because now I have 2 prospective mounts for the championship. Solly, of course, who's doing really well. He actually had his first overall championship win this March at the CPDI here in Wellington. So that was a good boost, and it was a personal best overall scoring weekend. So it was, how could I not be just delighted with that he's going so well? But then I also have a second horse that I started riding in December, and I've competed her now internationally twice, first at the Doha CPDI in Qatar, and then in Denmark at Blue Horse. And so they're right now scoring pretty similar to each other. Maybe Quiana, which is the new mare, is trying to notch out Solly a little bit. But I feel like Solly is like, I'm not going down without a fight. Don't you even think about it, Mom.
Yeah, hey, little sister. It's not happening.
So Solly. Yeah, so, honestly, really, like, I don't think I could go wrong with either horse. I mean, Solly, I have the experience with him. I know him, and vice versa. And with Quiana, like, she's I mean, if you don't mind that I take a moment to tell you a little bit about her, but she's like that horse that you dream of from your childhood. Like when you picture, like, we're going to go do a dressage test, like this is what I picture. It's harmony and balance. And she makes it easy for me in a way that I have never felt with a horse before. And so it's been quite an experience, and she's making me a better rider. And so, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the future with her. And I just hope I can do her justice, because she's a mare and she will tell everyone if I don't.
Oh, there you go.
Mares wouldn't do that. Come on.
No. Actually, she's actually has a heart of gold. Like she really does. I mean, I can't even explain it, but I think she's really something special. And of course, she has me completely wrapped around her little finger. So there's that.
Wonderful. So before we let you go, we'd like to just quickly hear about your recent White House visit, because I think that's well, I'm Canadian, so I mean, but I still think it's pretty cool. It
was out of this world. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't know what to expect because they're like, okay, you're going to go to the White House and there's a meeting with the president. I'm like, wow, what an incredible honor. But then, we got on the buses as a group, all of us together. We had assigned buses. They split up our team, which I was like, no, don't split us up. But that was just for logistical reasons of which airport you were going to after you leave the White House. But I got to meet some amazing people. I sat next to an alpine skier from Beijing on the bus, very good quality time as we waited on the buses for an hour and a half to get to the White House. But then when we arrived and they're like, okay, you're going through an entrance that is reserved for like heads of state. And, VIP visitors. And it was like, really? Wow. Like what an honor. And then as we walk up the driveway, which is lined with American flags right and left, and I'm thinking to myself, well, is this because we're Team USA, or is this because this is the U.S. White House, or both? But even just that was like so surreal and so special. Like it filled my heart with joy, to be an American athlete and be like, I represented my country, and just it's an incredible honor. And then as we were walking up there, and the band is playing the Olympic March, and you're just like, wow, this is really real. And you walk through the front door, and there's the presidential seal up there embossed in whatever that is, and it's just gorgeous. And there's another quartet in there playing beautiful music, and we had this self-guided tour through the White House, through all the different rooms, so you got to learn about the history of all the different sections of the White House. And then, okay, maybe don't tell anyone this, but I took a napkin from the restroom that has the presidential seal on it, and it's actually sitting about 3 feet from me right now. I haven't decided what to do with it.
Respect. I would have done the same thing. Good for you. We paid for that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Reese's purse would have been full. Reese's purse would have been full of anything that she could fit in it.
Thanks, Phil. My inner dark secrets.
Just the napkin. That's all I took.
That's fair. If there had been shampoo, I maybe would have taken that. I'm just saying that would have been maybe something I would have taken.
Yeah. So after we went through the White House, we then had brunch in the Rose Garden, and I mean, I have to admit, I sat down in one of the chairs in the Rose Garden, and my mom sent me a text. She's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Well, I'm eating in the Rose Garden." And,
wow.
I mean, is there really any other explanation of just like, wow, I mean, I've heard of the Rose Garden. I certainly didn't know what it looked like or expected to ever be sitting in it. And so from there, they then ushered us in our groups in order to sit in these bleachers that were going to be directly behind the president as he addressed the crowd and television. And it was just, I mean, talk about being on the backside. Literally, we're on the backside of the president. And that's inexplainable. Like, I've never even seen a president in real life, not to mention been the backdrop for one of his speeches, and to be the honored guest. And so it was just, the whole day was just filled with so much pride and American joy. And this is the American dream. This is what we're all aiming for. And the opportunity to live in this country and be supported by these programs to be able to go and do this. It's just like, wow, all I can say is like, thank you. Like, really, thank you. And so, I was filled with humility as I'm sitting behind the president, just thinking, wow, I'm just this little person, and they're allowing me to be here behind the president of the United States. So it was amazing. It was an incredible experience, surrounded by my peers who honestly are probably much better athletes than I, but wow, what an honor to even just be with them as well.
Oh man, you're such a cool person. And I love hearing your stories. I've gotten chills so many times in this interview today, because I've been watching your journey, and, that's why I was like, oh my gosh, we have got to get her on the show. She is so cool. And, just hearing your stories. I know. And I mean, like I said, I've already been stalking you, and a super fan on Facebook. And I just can't wait to see how things go with both your horses going to Denmark. Fingers crossed, everything works. Because it's
fingers
such an
crossed.
honor to see you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Fingers, toes, everything. And Kate, you just have to promise you'll come back on and tell us what it's like in Denmark this summer, because that would be really fun. We'd really enjoy that.
Thank you. I hope so. And I would be honored if I get the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your amazing journey. And we are super fans now, and we can't wait to be a part of it and watch you as well.
Thanks so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
The
Podcast is North America's most listened to horse show inspired podcast with over 200 episodes. Hosted by me, Piper Clem, publisher of the Plaid Horse magazine. Listen in to hear guests which include Olympic equestrians, top hunter jumper and equitation riders, trainers, vets, farriers, horse show managers, and industry insiders discussing topics that matter: horsemanship, collegiate riding, the state of our sport, and horse show how-tos for riders at every level. One episode each month is devoted to the mental side of your ride with nationally recognized mental skills coach and author Tanya Johnston. You will also hear insider stories about how the Plaid Horse magazine comes together every month.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have back on our show Ellie Brimmer. She is a rider for the U.S. Paralympic team, and she just went on a wonderful trip, and we wanted to chat with her. So welcome back to the show, Ellie.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we always love having you.
Oh, yes. So I just came back from a horse shopping trip looking for my next Paralympic prospect. We went to Denmark and Germany.
So, Ellie, just tell us a little bit about, just because I haven't been overseas in 3 years. Tell us a little bit, what was the travel like? Yeah.
This was my first time too, going over, and I'm like hyper paranoid. I want to make sure, that everything's in place, because you plan such a tight schedule that you don't want, if something falls through, it can really throw your whole week. So, we weren't required to, but we got COVID tests beforehand. We were both made sure we were up to date on our boosters, because different countries have different requirements, considering how many days out from your last vaccine booster you're still considered covered. And so we got all that done, and they had just lifted the masks on the plane. So, those were optional, which was and so it was very quiet, going out there. Really the only time we were really required to, they checked our documents going in, and then in Denmark, everything was completely open. In Germany, it was kind of up to the individuals. So we had to wear a mask in our hotel going down to breakfast, but everything else was completely open. So it was kind of an odd time to go, because a lot of the restrictions were kind of receding. So you had to kind of play it by ear to see who wanted what.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to know, and good to be prepared for, any of the situations. But I think that it's like that here in Canada. Some places are staying to it and some are not. But I think, just have a mask in your pocket or something like that, just in case it's a requirement for where you're going for the day, basically.
And I may be jumping to the end, but I will say the one thing we did get tripped up on is, we'd been doing 8 to 10 hour days in the car for 6 days, and it completely slipped our minds to get a COVID test on the way back, and our flight out was at 6:30 a.m. and the COVID testing didn't open until 8, so we had to rebook our flights, unfortunately, on the way back, but we still made it home at least on the same day. And so, it's one of those hiccups when you're just not used to kind of the new normal, but fortunately we were able to manage everything okay.
Oh, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about how you organized the trip and found the horses you were looking for. Just kind of give us a rundown on that.
All right. Well, first off, I think it's very important to have an honest conversation with your trainer. Where's your budget at? Understanding, the budget for the horse, the budget for the horse's travel and quarantine, have an honest conversation on the commission, make sure everything is out in the open and up front. That's just good horse practice anytime you're buying something. You want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, especially before you go such a long distance. And then obviously Andrea has worked in Denmark, so she had a lot of good contacts there. And I had a contact in Germany that I'd used before who helped me find my horse, London Swing. And we'd also, last time I've been looking, she had some good horses as well. So I contacted her as well and kind of let her know, this is what we were looking for. And she's had experience finding para horses before. So I was comfortable with that. And it's important to have somebody you have a good relationship in those areas, especially, when you're in a foreign country and you don't know the landscape quite as well. So I'm glad that we had, good relationships with people in both places.
Yeah, I think that's really critical too when you go shopping, because it is different and you have to be ready for that. Like you said, your routine, it's really, really busy. You basically land and start looking at horses and that's all you do. There's not a lot of time for sightseeing. That's kind of not the why you're there.
Like so, my non-horsey friends are like, "Oh, do you get to see anything?" And I'm like, no. We get to
I saw the
inside barns and arenas. Yeah, that's about it.
In the car, and I'm always asleep in the car. I never drive, so I'm like, I'm just asleep in the car. So
no, I'm like an anxious driver here anyway. Maybe it's because I live in Florida, but and so I'm like, Andrea, you're the one who's driving. That's part of how you earn your commission, because I would have a heart attack.
Well, and that's part of it too. Like that is kind of important if you are driving around to have somebody that's confident of driving. For example, when I went to Ireland, it was not a horse trip, but I went with my husband and the stick was on the opposite side of the car. And I can drive a stick, but not great at it. So I never drove. He drove. I was sort of the navigator. So I think that's actually an important comment is if you're not really comfortable driving, that needs to be worked out in advance because it can be quite scary and stressful.
And
don't
you're try
tired.
And save money by going for a manual rental. Spring for the automatic.
Yeah, 100%.
Going 8 to 10 days. It
That's
does
actually
make
really
it
good.
worth it.
Yeah, that's good advice. And also, you can, like in Germany, you can drive fast on the Autobahn, but I guess not in certain areas because I returned from a trip in Germany and got a ticket. So
oops. Yeah.
There goes another $60, right? But it's not super clear on the Autobahn rules, whatever. Anyways, it was one of those photo tickets, whatever, and then just
I think
I'm just laughing.
Luckily. I haven't gotten anything in my mailbox yet, so
yeah.
So Ellie, tell us a little bit about the horses that you went to try and what you were looking for specifically.
Okay, so I'm a grade 3 para, which is walk trot with lateral work. You would kind of think on the surface it won't be that hard to find that kind of horse. But it really requires a horse, with pre-St. George level engagement, and to be able to do that and have enough forward engine where they don't get bored all the time with the 1.5 million transitions we have to do. But they're also have a good brain along with the engine. And, para keeps on getting more and more competitive. So, we are also trying to find very high quality gaits. And unfortunately, even though I don't need the canter, when you have a good walk, you tend to have a good canter and vice versa. My budget was good, but it's not like blank check money. Like if an able-bodied person was looking for a Grand Prix international competitor, I wasn't in that price range at all. So it's a little tricky. So you have to kind of find just the right thing.
Yeah, a real gem, a gem, and it has to be, like you said, it has to check a lot more boxes being a para horse than an able-bodied horse. But so how successful were you? Like, let's just ballpark how many horses you saw.
Yeah.
How many that might be what you want. Yeah, that kind of thing.
So I'll give you the numbers, like including. Like I live in Wellington. I looked here over the winter. We saw like 1.5 million videos. We saw 3 in person here and then 22 over in Europe. 2 ended up being kind of that worked well enough that I would be willing to write a check for. And there was a couple like that, maybe it was like one, unfortunately I liked, but it was like way out of my price range. And then there was a couple more that, like 2 or 3 more that maybe I could make work if I were desperate to have a horse right this second. But, I'm trying to play the long game because I've been in the sport long enough that, unfortunately a para, sometimes you get a horse and it doesn't work for you. And so it's worth it, I think, to wait to find the right thing. And I think hopefully I did without jinxing myself too much. So, but fingers crossed.
Well, and what was it like to try the horses? How did you do that system?
Well, first off, like I will say, if you're going to undertake something like this, it's very important to have a really good relationship with your trainer. Because, as a para, Andrea does like a lot of the warm up work for me, and I'm in a full training program. So it has to be a horse that gets along with her as well as gets along with me. And so she actually, because she has a relationship with Helga Strand, like we hit them first in Denmark, and she was able to try, a lot of the horses that first day. I didn't sit on any the day we landed, and she was able to kind of go, yes, no, yes, we can see these ones tomorrow. These ones don't show us again. And, nobody gets offended, which is
Right.
nice.
Right.
Yeah,
That's the bonus
actually
of going to a sales barn, like they've got lots of horses. They're going to show you everything that they think is suitable. And if you don't think it's suitable, it's fine. It's not somebody's personal, baby that they've raised and trained and, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to feel bad about it, right? I mean, I think that's one thing when you try horses. If you don't like the horse, don't get on the horse. For me, it's disrespectful to the horse, if anything. The sales barns, they don't care. But even if it's a personal someone's horse, if it's not for me, then I want to save that horse's legs for someone else. So I'm a firm believer in that. But if it's just not the right horse, that's okay. And in Europe, you really just don't have time. If you don't like the horse, you need to move on because there are literally lots of horses in the sea over there.
Yeah. And with the German broker I worked with, we did see a lot of private horses. And I will say, like, that's also where it's good to have your trainer because, and you both have to have like a bit of a thick skin, but you have to have somebody there with you who's willing to kind of be the tough guy and say, this isn't going to work for us. Because it can be a little bit like, you feel a little bad. And so you definitely need to have somebody in your corner who's willing to kind of say no when you need to.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, so Ellie, you did find a horse for yourself?
Well, fingers crossed. I'm hoping. I don't want to jinx myself too much, but we're still waiting on blood work and things like that. But it sounds like we already did most of the PPE. And I will say, I don't want to jinx myself too much, but I will say the clinic that we worked with in Denmark was wonderful. Like, gone are the days where you got some like cloudy x-rays and just hoped and prayed for the best. Like, we got really wonderful digital x-rays. They used WhatsApp and they videotaped almost the entire pre-purchase exam, including like drawing the blood for the drug testing and showing them sealing it. It was so impressive. So, I think, if you're going to be going over and making a big purchase and you can't physically be there, kind of the vet clinics are stepping up. So it's nice to see some of that and have some of that peace of mind as well.
Absolutely. Well, that is so fun. And in the pre-purchase that is a whole different ballgame. That's a lot. But like you said, that's part of being organized and having a plan and all
also,
of that. And
I will say that's something that, like, luckily I work for a veterinarian, Dr. Susan Oakley. And so I was able to talk with her and be like, okay, like, let me make sure that we get exactly all the views that we need, because sometimes, like, Europeans think that Americans are excessive with their x-rays. They may or may not be right, but then we can be clear that we're not missing any views that we wanted or anything like that. So it's important to, communicate with your vet and make sure that what they think you need and what the European vets think you want is exactly the same.
Well, and the other thing, just with the American vets, we do have that reputation, but our horses, they have to go on a plane, and it's more. It's not just purchasing a horse. Like it's going to be another at least $10,000, depending on a mare or stallion, on top of the horse. So we have a little bit different
about current pricing. Like, about a single stall for a gelding is about 10.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So so our vets are harder, but we put more into the horses at the end of the day. So it's important that they do that.
I was going to say it's important to communicate with your insurance as well. And you can add that kind of thing, at least like my insurance company, you can add the cost of the importation onto the insurance value, which is helpful.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Well, Ellie, I love your story. We can't wait to see your new partner. If everything goes well, we're going to send our cheers your way, and we can't wait to see you as you develop this horse.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to their debut, hopefully if all goes well. So
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. It is a process, and you do have to know that it takes some time. But we're excited, and I'm going to be cheering you on.
thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellie. Well, Phil, I am looking forward to using our beautiful new halters from Trust Design at the horse show, or I will, when this week airs, I will have gone last week, and I'm sure they're going to look really sharp at the horse show. And it's your turn this week to go to horse shows.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to see the halters and the quality that gets put into these, just come find me, come by my stalls. I'm, usually hanging out there later in the day, after the show or whatever. You can find me. Come see me at the show, and I will demonstrate the beautiful halters for you. And the other thing is that if you are going to order them, we want to let you know that there is a coupon code still going on at Trust Design. So just enter HRN into the place where you can before the checkout, and it's 10% off. So I think that's totally worth it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to Justin and the Trust Design team for all their support. Well, for this week's trainer tip of the week, we have international superstar and just the loveliest person, Anna Buffini, back on the show. Welcome back, Anna.
Thank you so much. It's always great to talk to you.
Well, we have been picking your brain and having a great time on your interview, and you've been so kind to stay for this week's trainer tip. Can you tell us, what is your tip for everyone?
Yes, this one is about the canter zigzag, which is everybody's nemesis. I was just talking to a friend this morning, and she was like, can they take this out forever? And I would be like, I'm fine with that. So this tip actually comes from Günther Seidel and Frederick Vondres, who's on the German elite team. So don't take it from me, take it from them. But really so much trouble that we have is because their back is tight. So gymnasticizing your horse is key. So in the canter, in the trot, in the walk, add in more leg yields and shoulder forwards and haunches in than you think all the time, and flex the horse the opposite way. So no matter which way you're going, flex it to the right, and then keep going to the right and flex it to the left as you're going to the right. Over and over. Think about the neck being tight is the reason you're not getting your zigzag. And then over and over again, you can never do too many, like you're on the rail, you leg yield to the quarter line, and then you shoulder in on the quarter line, and then you do a circle on the quarter line, then you go to a hunches in. It can be monotonous, I know, but I promise you that it will get your horse bendy like a noodle, and it's going to help you achieve that zigzag so much better. And it's what I do with every single one of my horses, and it's never failed me.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's just kind of maintaining a sense of balance, no matter where the head, neck, it is. Early on in our training, we do leg yield, and then we do half pass, and but you get to a point in which you have to kind of do something that's a little bit in between, or that the horse has to be asked, all kinds of different questions, between two strides. You know what I mean? Like you go two strides this way, and then you change the flexion, and then you go two strides the other way, because in the end, if you want a top competitive horse, he's got to be on your aids and flexible in all different ways, and just listening to the rider, and the rider has to really be able to sit in the middle and not fall one way or the other, because if you're trying to do this stuff but the rider's all over the place, I mean that's not going to work either. So both of you have to be able to follow each other and change the flexions and be doing all of the lateral movements easily from one to the next to the next.
Exactly. It's just, they have to be so on your aids, especially the more you go up the levels. You have to have it right there, right then, and just you staying in the middle and making your horse on your aids and having access to whatever you need when you need it, really.
Yeah. And what I love about this is, truly when you first have your canter zigzag, and you guys, I think it's 4-3 when you have your first canter zig and zag. You do it in the trot.
Actually, I think it's 4-2.
Maybe 4-2. Yeah, I mean, it's
you
early.
come from the wall, from the center line to the wall, and then back out again.
So it's not just the Grand Prix. I mean, the Grand Prix is wicked hard because you got to count, you got to go to the side, you know, how many times, like it's really difficult, but the building blocks start early. And I think that's what's such a good reminder. It's not waiting till you have an FEI horse. I mean, this is going to come up in the lower levels. And so you need to start practicing that idea. I always say, I want a Grand Prix horse. Every horse I ride, I'm trying to get it to the highest level. So that's not going to be a new thing when you get to Prix St. George, when you think, so I think it's just a great reminder of don't forget to supple your horses these are hard questions. You know, it's hard for me to walk and chew gum, let alone, you know, ride and ask the horses to do it, you know? So I think it's a great tip and something that I think it's super important. And you can do it right in the walk, the canter, the trot, all to get them more supple in the back. Right, Anna?
Yeah. Regardless of what level you or your horse is, everybody can do it. And you're building your way up towards the Grand Prix.
I love it. Well, Anna, great tip as always. So how can our listeners find you online?
I am on Instagram a lot. I'm Anna_Buffini there. And then on Facebook, I'm Anna Buffini. And I just try and share as much of my journey and as much inspiration as I possibly can. So never hesitate to reach out if you need anything.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Anna. And we can't wait to keep watching you and have you back on the show soon.
Thank you so much for having me again. You guys are awesome.
Well, it's kind of a spoiler alert, but if you've been a friend of the show, which we hope you've enjoyed our show, we are actually, next month is our 10-year anniversary as a team together, Phil and I, being part of the Dressage Radio Show. So we are really excited. We don't really know what to do. So we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate with all our listeners. So if you have any ideas, and we have some great listeners and you guys are super involved, send us an email. You can send it to me, send it to Phil, because we want to celebrate with you guys and thank you for allowing us and having the privilege to come on every week and talk to you and be a part of your life and be a part of your equine journey. It's been quite a thrill. Phil and I are really trying to think about, our favorite memories over the last 10 years, which I cannot believe it's 10 years. It blows my mind. I feel like, time flies really when you're having fun. And we've just had some amazing experiences while doing the show. So if you guys have a favorite interview or you want to hear from some guests or hear from some friends of ours or want to come on the show, please just drop us a little email. You can do it, Reese@horseradionetwork.com or Phil@horseradionetwork.com. And we would love that. So as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products and Trust Design. If you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the Auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you next week.